What's going on, guys? So in this video, I'm going to be talking about my military experience. We'll get right into it, right? I'm 23 years old. I served Army active duty for 2.5 years and in the National Guard for 2 years. Army National Guard for 2 years. Some of y'all have heard like, how did you serve only 2 years active duty, 2 years Guard, right? I actually had a rare and weird contract. I had a 2-6 option contract. So basically it was 2 years of active duty and 2 years in the National Guard, plus training, so like basic and AIT, right? So if any of you guys are thinking of joining the Army, depending on the MOS you pick, they do offer the shortest contracts out of all the military branches. They offer the shortest active duty time that you could possibly serve, right, which is 2 years. I lucked out with that. I got a 2-year contract, right? But the twist with it is I had to do 2 years of the Army Reserves or the Army National Guard after I served my active duty time. So they kind of get you with that, right? So long story short, I served 2 years active duty and 2 years National Guard, right? I'll do a more in-depth video if you guys have any more questions about specifically active duty or specifically National Guard and or both, right? Okay, so I'm gonna get into my contract, right? Or my experience. So I joined in January of 2020. So as many of y'all know, March of 2020, that was when chaos hit the world, right? I was in the middle of basic training when COVID hit, right? Hit everybody pretty hard. I had no idea what the heck was going on. So basically when I went, we had Shark Attack, then we had Red Phase, then we had, I think it was Blue Phase and then White Phase, right? And after White Phase, you graduate. So basically we got told the news about COVID after Blue Phase. So after the second phase of basic training, right? We had literally just finished Blue Phase. Like we just rucked back from our two-day field training exercise, right? And they had a huge formation in the bay wherever we have like PT and all that stuff, right? And they told the whole company that Family Day was getting canceled, and basically we weren't gonna be able to see our families and stuff like that, and we weren't gonna be able to walk through the smoke, do different things, right? Because of this whole virus that's spreading crazy. Long story short, we all graduate basic training, and most of us are holdovers for a certain time, right? Going to AIT because they don't want us to catch the virus, and if we catch it, they don't want us to spread it. So I was a holdover for about, thank God it wasn't that long. It was like 3 days maybe, and then I left to AIT. Some stayed as a holdover for like, I want to say like damn near 6 months. Like it was months that they got. They were holdovers there, right? And then got to AIT. I didn't start till like 2 weeks later because that was when the next class started. And then after it started, it was about 5 or 6 weeks of my training because I'm an 89 Bravo, which is an ammunition specialist. And still wasn't able to see my family when I graduated AIT as well. But once I graduated, I was hoping, we'd get news that they'd come, but it never happened, right? And after AIT, I was getting told where I was going to be stationed, and I was getting stationed overseas, so I got stationed in South Korea for my first and last active duty station. So basically, I went to basic and AIT. My family did not get to see me graduate, and then right after that, they were like, "Hey, yo, homie, you're getting shipped overseas, bro, halfway across the world." So I got shipped off after I graduated AIT about a month later. I don't know why they sent me so freaking late, but they sent me hella late. Then once I got to Korea, I had to quarantine for 2 weeks because that was the rules for Korea over there, overseas. Anybody coming into the country had to quarantine for 2 weeks. That was their rule. It was a quarantine for 2 weeks, and then after those 2 weeks were up, they had told me I was getting stationed. I think it was Camp Humphreys at first, and then while I was in quarantine, about to get out, they're like, "Yeah, bro, you're not going to Humphreys. You're going to Casey." And for those of y'all that know, Camp Casey is it's not a bad duty station, but it's not the best. It's definitely not Camp Humphreys. So I was basically there, for a year. So mind you, my contract is 2 years and 6 months because of training, right? So when I got to my first duty station, I was already 7 months into the military, 7 months into my active duty contract. And once you're stationed overseas, since I was at Camp Casey, it was a 1 year tour, right? 1 year I was overseas, and I'd go back to the States. But it makes no sense because when I go back to the States, I'll just need like 5 or 6 months left of my contract, and then I'm out of active duty. So long story short, I do my year, right? My year, and I get news, I'm getting stationed in Kansas if I want to go there. Well, not if I want to, right? But, I had talked to my chain of command, and I said, can I just extend my contract and stay here in South Korea? Because I was making more overseas, and no matter what, I wasn't able to see my family and stuff like that. So like, yeah, sure. So I did some paperwork, and we got that extension out in Korea. So I extended another, I think it was 11 months until my contract ended, pretty much. Right after I did that, I got news that my grandma had stage 4 colon cancer. So talked to my chain of command about that too, because not only that, but my brothers graduated at the same time. So I talked to my chain of command to see if I could go home, and they helped me out. They told my family to put in a Red Cross message and stuff like that, and I was able to go home after basically being away about a year and 6 months. A year and a half I was away from home before I got to see my family once again. So I got to see them, right? I saw them for a month and some change, something like that. Then I had to fly back into Korea, and then after I flew back into Korea, I had to quarantine again for 2 weeks. And so once I got into quarantine, I didn't have COVID, right? And then they do an exiting test like 10 days in, and then you get out on the 14th day, right? So when they retested me, they're like, "Hey, bro, you got COVID, man." And I was like, "COVID? How do I get COVID in quarantine, right?" Didn't make any sense. So quarantined for another 2 weeks. So I was in quarantine for a whole damn month. Then I went back to my duty station, and then about a month later, my grandma passed away. I wasn't able to go home because I had just been home. So it was like, dang. Sorry to hear that. Luckily, my sergeant gave me a day off to grieve and stuff like that. Gave me a couple days off. Well, not days off, but he gave me time to grieve and do what I need to do. And then about 11 months later, I'm ETSing, about to finish my active duty contract, and I have to go talk to retention and all these other people, and they're like, "Hey, bro." So mind you, I thought I was just doing active duty for 2 years, and that was it. Because when I first joined, they said, "Yeah, your contract's only 2 years active duty, and then you're done, man. Then you don't got to do anything else after that." It was like, you just got 6 years or 5.5 years of inactive reserves. And I was like, "Oh, cool." And then come to it, I talked to retention, and they're like, "Yeah, no, bro, on this contract, you have 2-6 option contracts, so you gotta do 2 years of either National Guard or reserves." And I was like, "Well, ain't that something, huh?" And they're like, "Yeah, you could also do active duty again." And I was like, I was done with active duty due to all the stuff that had happened to me. By the way, my experience will not be the same as yours, right? But if you're thinking of joining and you want to join, everybody's experience is completely different, trust me. Hopefully you don't get COVID, right, in your experience. But yeah, so basically I just re-enlisted for the National Guard for 2 years, and they're like, "All right, your contract starts right after your terminal leave starts." Or not starts, my terminal leave ended, right? So left Korea, I was on leave for 2 months, and 2.5 months, something like that. Then once my leave came up, I emailed whoever had to email, but the National Guard, and they were like, "Oh yeah, bro, our systems are down, we'll get back to you when we can." I was like, "Alright, sounds good to me, right?" And then, months pass, right? I'm a full-time student now, playing college football and doing all this other stuff, right? I'm like, yeah, let me email them again because it's already October. I got out of active duty June, emailed them June, and they're like, no, we'll get back to you. Now it's October, and nobody's talked to me or nothing, so I was like, let me call. I call, and they're like, oh, well, we'll get into contact and stuff like that. And turns out my unit I had gotten attached to with the National Guard had gotten deployed before I got attached to them, right? So all there was rear D, so nobody was really there. I went to 2 drills, and then after the 2 drills, it was October, November, and December. And I had talked to my readiness NCO, and I was like, hey man, I heard about this border mission and stuff like that. You think I could hop on it? And he's like, oh yeah, for sure, bro. I'll put your name on the list and stuff like that. So I was a full-time student for the fall of 2022, and then I hopped on the border mission in February of 2023. And basically, my whole National Guard career was on the border mission of Texas, because I was in the Texas National Guard. I forgot to mention that. I apologize. So I was on the Texas border for a year and a month or something like that. And I got off of the mission March of 2024, and then went 3 months of just regular guard, and I literally just got out of the National Guard, like, I think it was yesterday. So really excited about that. I'm so happy I'm done with the military. But yeah, like when I switched from active duty to the National Guard, it was a lot slower pace, and I do highly suggest, if you are thinking of joining the military and you're kind of confused, I would say go active duty first, because you'll get a lot of your benefits doing active duty first, and then go to the Guard, because it's a lot easier transition. But if you do have a steady job as a civilian, and you're making pretty good money, but you still want some military benefits, stuff like that, then go National Guard or Reserves. I would say National Guard because I've personally been in it. But go National Guard because you do keep a majority of your civilian life with you. So that was pretty much my experience. I kind of, I guess, crammed it all into one video. If there's any more questions about, specifically active duty, specifically National Guard, or any other questions like what kind of benefits you get if you serve active duty, what kind of benefits you get if you serve National Guard, I'm more than willing to help out in any sort of way. Any questions you guys have, I'll be more than willing to do a video on covering whatever questions you guys have. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope this video didn't scare you about joining the military. You do get great experiences out of joining the military. You do meet lifelong friends, and you do get pretty good benefits, I'm not gonna lie. So just comment any questions you guys have. Feel free to like and subscribe as well. I'm more than willing to help out anybody that needs the help.